Hey guys, this is the Dominator of the World doing a commentary video on Empire Total War. This is a Poland versus France battle, and I command the Polish. My opponent, Matthew Coat 71, commands the French. So, in my army, for my first rank, I have riflemen. I have 5 units of riflemen to be precise for the entire army, and 9 units of line infantry. But for this battle, I split my army into 2 sections, because he was attacking at me from 2 sides. So I'm just going to read off my entire army instead of reading off individuals. So I have 2 Uhlans, 2 winged hussars, 5 riflemen, and 9 line infantry. My opponent, well, first I'm going to show you the basic layout of my troops. So on my left flank, I sent out only line infantry, and that was only 4 units. In my right flank, I'm gonna eventually have my 1 unit of riflemen and 2 of my cav units, and in my center I have the rest. So now we'll look at Matthew Coat 71's army. In his army, he has 1 grenadiers, his general's bodyguard, 2 cuirassiers, 2 chasseurs à cheval, 7 line infantry, 2 infanterie vue, 2 chasseurs à pied, and 1 charles. For this battle, I decided not to bring a general's bodyguard, just so that I could get enough money to bring in a more powerful cavalry force. And because of that, I was successful. So here, I set up spikes for my riflemen and sent my cav units over there to in apprehension, because I thought he was gonna cav charge my riflemen, and I didn't want that. On my left flank of my center section, I sent in a rifleman unit to lure his center to move forward so that we can start firing on each other, and that worked because now his center is moving forward. On his left flank, he didn't need any coaxing, he just decided to move forward on his own. And he also brought 2 of his cav units, and he's going to charge them on my left flank of my left section. And I'm going to manage to get my guys into square, but since one of his cav is chasseurs à cheval, he's going to be able to shoot at my guys and weaken my square. But the rest of my guys are just duking it out with his guys. But if his cav hadn't been on his right flank, then this would be an even match, since we would have the same amount of infantry units. Although I think I would have had the better edge. Well, actually, I think he would, since most of his infantry units there were his elite units. So he would have. It wouldn't have mattered if he brought his cavalry or not. So here I brought in one of my line infantry to provide some flanking fire on his little mob over there. And I call it a mob because it's not really in any sort of precise line. It's just in, like, one unit behind another. Which I wouldn't recommend, because then you shoot your own guys. So here, he's charged his general's bodyguard into the backs of my riflemen that I sent to lure his army forward. And my riflemen are gonna take on his general's bodyguard, but they're gonna lose, of course, since they're only riflemen. So now our skirmishers are duking it out with each other, and his skirmishers are on his left flank. He doesn't have them spread out like I do in the front of my army. But nevertheless, they're still firing on me. And on the right part of his center, he has made a giant mob of line infantry, and he's gonna bayonet charge them into my center, which is gonna be a devastating blow on my center, since I'm only gonna send 1 unit at a time to help, because I didn't want to weaken my line so that his other parts of the center could just shoot them out. On my right wing, we're not doing anything so far. We're just having a standoff with this cav. in this game, this Polish versus France game was a game request made by the Quadstuff. He actually wanted me to play as Poland and my opponent to play as the United Provinces, since that was Holland at this time. But since I wasn't able to get my opponent to play the United Provinces, I had to deal with France. But I still play as Poland. So, anyways, here, my cav charged into his cav that he was charging into my square, and I did that so that my square could be relieved and start firing on the enemy, because some of my units were already routing and I needed all the line infantry I could get. And my cav charge proved to be successful because one of his units is already routing, but my line infantry isn't doing good at all. 2 of them have already routed, and the other 2 are about to route any second now. And there's still a lot of his infantry left in that area. And here they go. Now they're routing. So now, at this point I was pretty worried about the outcome of the battle, because so far my left part of my army was completely destroyed, except for my cav, but they're going to be destroyed soon too. And the left part of my center army is being currently attacked by a huge amount of French with the bayonet. And that wasn't too good either, because I was scared that they would overcome my line and just go down my flanks, destroying one unit at a time, which is what I would have done. And he probably would have been successful if I hadn't stopped him. And in a desperate attempt, I sent in my riflemen that was supposed to be in my front rank to charge into his big mob there with their swords, as you can see. I also sent in another unit. I sent in both riflemen. But now he's sending up his center forward and getting them in range of my line infantry, and he's not firing. He's not stopping his army to fire. He's just sending them forward. I think he was trying to do another bayonet charge, this time more spread out, and that wasn't very good for him, because his grenadiers are already routed and my guys are able to fire on him. And on my right wing, I've shifted my riflemen to provide some flanking fire, since they were basically doing nothing and there was no threat of his cav charging, because by this time I was almost sure that my opponent had forgotten about them, since he was focusing on other parts. And apparently his guys just gave up and a mass rout broke out, because now his center just crumbled. So now all that was left was his left part of his army, his right part of his army, and my center. And since my center had more men, we were able to, I was able to split up my troops, and half of them were to take out his cav units, and the other half was to go onto his right flank, which I did. As you can see, I've made my line infantry into a little U to provide some straight and flanking fire. Over here on my right flank, we've taken out his cav, which was also very nice. And some of his line infantry that were in the center stopped routing and came back, and now they're firing on my guys, and I'm firing back. But they actually managed to rout one of my guys, so that kind of annoyed me a bit. But I wasn't worried or anything, because I had the superior amount of men. So eventually I'm gonna get my riflemen to surround his line infantry over there, and we're gonna take them out. And currently I have this glitch from Empire Total War. I'm not sure if the game did it or if the virus that I had did it, but for some reason, no matter how high I put the graphics, whenever I scroll down, you can only see a couple of people loading at a time whenever they're loading. And you have to move the mouse up or down to see other people loading as you go. So I don't know why that's happening. I've tried every single combination of graphics to try to change that, but it hasn't changed. I think it had something to do with the virus I had, that the virus changed it. But that's alright. It's not really that important, I think. So, anyways, now my riflemen have surrounded his line infantry, and his original left part of his army, right part of his army, has routed, and now his line infantry has routed, which marks the end of the battle for him. For Matthew. So, that is a victory for the Polish, and the Polish won in your favor, the Quadstuff. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and good game to my opponent.